Welcome to
Crazy, right?
A podcast
Be your own person.
for those affected by
Crazy, right?
mental health,
I wanted to just try it.
Crazy,
It's something that I've struggled with for a while.
featuring live improvised music
Now I finally got my head right again.
by your host,
am I right? Crazy,
It feels good to talk about it.
right? Crazy, right?
Dave Asher.
My guest today is Mandy Miller, recent Chicago transplant from Virginia who takes musical improv classes at I.O., is in love with her dog, and wears her mental illness like a badge. Mandy, thanks for joining me today here in my studio. I'm going to step over here to my piano. To get started, give any sort of sound or word, whoa, or like, ah, or, it's a mystery. Then we'll just kind of get into it.
Okay.
So I'll just throw something down, and then you just take it away, and we'll just go there together.
Let's see. That whole interaction actually just reminded me that about performance anxiety was probably when I noticed I had anxiety, that I knew that it was a thing.
How long ago? What was your age? We're talking here.
That was high school, because I never tried out for any solos, because I never had the guts to try out for anything until high school.
Was it anxiety before that was stopping you, or something else?
Definitely anxiety. If I had to give a presentation in school, I would skip school.
What was the first moment that you can remember where you can recall feeling anxious?
It's hard to, if you have an anxiety disorder, it's a hard question because anxious is normal. And so the first time I can remember it really being a problem, I had my first panic attack, I was 11. And I remember I was home alone, and I was outside at our apartment. I started to think I was dying, and I couldn't breathe, and I almost called an ambulance. And then I started walking as fast as I could around the neighborhood. And I had to just keep walking and walking because it would come back if I stopped walking. And then eventually it just faded away.
It still currently affects you?
Yeah, I just take a lot of meds now.
You're very open about your medications.
Very open.
I know that you do a little improv singing. Let's have a little song about your daily relationship with your meds.
When I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing that I do. I go into the medicine cabinet and I pop a pill or 2 or 4. First I start with the Wellbutrin. That one's 300 milligrams.
Yes, we want the specifics.
Then the Lexapro, that one's 20. And 20 for the propranolol. That's all for the daytime.
There's night.
Then at night I take Klonopin. That one is for sleeping. I'm not done. No, then I also have Klonopin is in my purse for emergencies.
When's the last emergency you needed that Klonopin for?
I call it my airplane Klonopin. It's my airplane Klonopin. So I took it when I flew home from Paris about a month ago.
Flying terrifies me.
It's so awful. It's so bad. You're so out of control. Like, you're just so out of control. I was always just afraid of, like, really dumb things. I thought that when I fell asleep, I was just going to stop breathing and just spontaneously die.
Let's hear that.
so tired. I haven't slept in a week because I'm afraid that I'll die when I go to sleep.
Then, do you have nightmares when you do sleep?
Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe. Then I wake up, gasping for air. I go down and tell my parents about my nightmare. They tell me to stop being so silly and carry my ass back to bed before I get in trouble.
How do you find yourself relating to the way that mental health is dealt with?
I told somebody that I didn't know very well that I had, I've got panic disorder, anxiety. The first thing they do is tell me to do yoga. I don't know, I think that it's getting better. When it comes to myself, I kind of just don't care what anyone says.
Right.
And I think that's why it's easy for me to be open about it, is that I know how bad it is when it's bad, and that I need to take medicine, and that it's something I'm going to have to work through my entire life.
Speaking for myself, I have had a mixed relationship with committing to medication. I was hospitalized and was on a dangerously lowered dose of my medication. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt, oh, I don't need my medication anymore? Has it always been this clearly makes you feel better, and so there's no doubt that you're going to stay on your medication?
Through middle school and high school, it's hard to tell if it's a problem or if you're just an awkward adolescent. It started becoming a very obvious problem when I got to college. I started having more panic attacks, and so I started taking medicine when I was about 19. And so I took it for about 10 years. I guess when I was about 31, I decided that I was gonna go on a break. I decided that I'd started taking improv classes. I started painting. I'd started doing a lot of artsy things that I hadn't done in a long time, and I'd made a lot of new friends. I'd quit a really stressful job. And so I thought that, changing my life and my lifestyle, the people around me, was going to affect me much more than it did. And I wasn't medicated, but I was having some allergies. And so my sister said, do you want to use my inhaler? And I said, sure. So I used her inhaler and had this massive, medication-induced panic attack that wouldn't stop. My body and my brain would not turn it off. So it was panic attack on panic attack on panic attack. Naturally, I thought I was dying because that's what panic disorder is. I went to my psychiatrist and he's like, you need serotonin. And I was so proud of not having been on medication for 2 years that going back on medication was very hard. And I had a lot of shame around it because I was sort of married to that story. The one where I changed my lifestyle and now I'm better. And then that story ended up not being true. And then finally, I just sort of decided that it was okay. And that the shame was a choice. I choose to, have shame around that, or just celebrate the good things that it gives me, I guess. So I started talking really openly about it. I'll tell anybody. It's all over my Facebook page. I think part of the healing process from that shame is me continually being open about it. Because if I'm open about it, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. So back to that question you asked me 10 minutes ago. Yes, I have had a hard time taking medication.
How would you describe a panic attack?
Okay. So first I'll get a little bit dizzy. Sometimes they can have triggers, for instance, I'll have a panic attack on an airplane if I don't take my airplane Klonopin. But when it gets bad, it's when they're not triggered. They can just happen at any time. And so I get dizzy at first, and I try to start breathing through it. My heart rate goes up. My heart starts beating really fast. And so being dizzy and then my heart rate going up tells my brain that something is wrong. So my brain starts going into this like, it's sheer terror. Like my brain and my body are terrified. And there's this part of you, there's this like logical part of you that's still in there that knows this is something that's happening to you and you're trapped. And it's like, I know this isn't real. I know that this is like my body, my brain are like betraying me, but I'm stuck in here and I don't kind of know what to do and I can't stop it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a difference. When you're going into a manic episode, you also have that sensation on some level that this is not real, but it is fun. And so you start to believe that it is actually happening, and so then it's just a feedback loop.
Got it. Yeah, there has to be some relation. My family's batshit. I use the term crazy, and I actually use it like endearingly. But yeah, there's a couple people in my family that have bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety. Just it's rampant. It's on both sides. So I'm just probably not going to continue the breeding.
You're not.
It needs to stop.
You don't want to have kids because you don't want to have a crazy child.
Yes. And,
wow.
And not because I am afraid of any sort of like social stigma of having a crazy child. I don't want to bring anyone into the world that would have to go through things that I have been through on that level. That mental breakdown that I affectionately call it the mental breakdown of 2016, where the panic attacks just wouldn't stop. I was on the couch, like on the phone with my mom crying, like, I don't know, it won't stop. I need to check myself into a hospital. Like I kept telling her, Mom, I feel like I'm gonna have a seizure. She's like, you've never had a seizure before. I'm like, I know, but I might have one now. And I remember thinking like, I would take anything, like pills or anything to make this stop, or like, if this doesn't stop, I'm gonna jump off a building because this is so bad. And the thought of like another human, especially a human that I love, like having to go through something like that, I don't know. I'd just rather adopt a kid that's like probably already gonna have problems. So at least it won't be my fault.
Thanks so much for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you again to my guest, Mandy Miller. You can see her perform musical improv in Chicago with Supernatural Algae. She's trained in improv and sketch comedy at the Push Comedy Theater in Norfolk, Virginia, and can be contacted at amanda.n.miller@hotmail.com. Yes, Hotmail. And can be contacted by anyone with a similar mental illness who needs someone to talk to. Thanks again, Mandy. That wraps up this episode of Crazy Right with Dave Asher. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider writing a review or rating this podcast. And of course, we would love it if you subscribe. I'm Dave Asher, and I'm glad to be here.